Hello everyone. Today I will be presenting an analysis on feminism from Gurinder Chadha's 2002 film Bend It Like Beckham. The film tells the story of Jasminder Bamra, known as Jess, a British Indian teenager living in London who dreams of becoming a professional footballer like her idol David Beckham. However, her conservative Punjabi Sikh parents disapprove of her playing football, expecting her instead to follow a traditional path of cooking, marriage, and domesticity. Jess secretly joins a local women's football team after, where she befriends Jules, another aspiring footballer, and together they challenge gender expectations both within their families and in broader society. Now, on the surface, the film appears to celebrate female empowerment, multiculturalism, and sporting achievement, but when we look more closely through the lens of feminism, we see that the film not only challenges gender norms, but it also reproduces certain patriarchal and heteronormative views. To frame this analysis, I'll be outlining a few key feminist film concepts. First, film theorist Laura Mulvey's influential theory of the male gaze argues that classical cinema tends to position women as objects of visual pleasure for a presumed male viewer. And according to Russell A. Sharman, women in cinema have historically been confined to limited roles, mothers, lovers, victims, or sexualized objects rather than active agents in their own right. However, Bend It Like Beckham disrupts this tradition, as Jess and Jules are not defined by men or romance, but by their ambitions as athletes. So the narrative is structured around whether they can achieve professional success in football, a storyline that is usually reserved for male characters. So for an example, Jess's happy ending is not marriage, but a scholarship to play football in the United States, which directly contrasts with her sister Pinky's storyline, which ends in a traditional wedding and what her parents would have wanted for her instead. Moreover, the film's main characters contradict the classic movie concept of the male gaze. According to a media studies source on Laura Mulvey's definition of the male gaze, it refers to the way women are objectified by the camera lens in Hollywood movies because men are in control of the production process and make decisions that appeal to their own values and interests. The audience, including women, are then positioned to accept this narrow representation. However, Bend It Like Beckham does quite the opposite by centering their female protagonists, prioritizing their internal lives, and showcasing them as active subjects rather than decorative objects for male viewing, like styling women in revealing clothing, for example. Next, we take a look at the Bechdel test, which is a basic test where a movie has to satisfy these requirements, and it has to have at least two named women in it who talk to each other about something other than the man. This is to determine whether a piece of filmed entertainment can achieve even the most basic level of gender equality and representation, assessing whether a film or other fictional work depicts women in a sexist manner or reinforces gender stereotypes, according to Russell A. Sharman. The movie passes this test with flying colors because the two main female characters, Jess and Jules, have significant conversations about topics other than men aside from the shared love interest, such as their passion for football and the cultural challenges they face.
I want to play professionally.
Wow, can you do that? I mean, as a job like?
Sure. Not really here, but you can in America. They've got a pro league with new stadiums and everything.
Really?
Sports films themselves can be read as feminist texts. According to Abdel Shahid and Kamal Lam, films like Bend It Like Beckham frame sport as a space where inequalities can be overcome. The film can be interpreted by audiences through the wider lens of multicultural discourse and traditional ideas of masculinity and femininity. In many ways, the film reinforces familiar lessons and social norms that viewers have already encountered in other forms, and gives the film significant influence, as rather than presenting a singular viewpoint on the experiences of young women playing football in Britain, it comes across as a broader statement about the nature of society itself. Next, we will be looking through a brief scene analysis. One of the most revealing scenes occurs when Jess's mother scolds her for playing football instead of learning domestic skills. She says,
What family will want a daughter-in-law who can run around kicking football all day but can't make round chapatis?
This moment reflects a patriarchal expectation that the women in her culture must conform to domesticity and marriageability rather than personal ambition. This dialogue crystallizes the clash between patriarchal tradition and Jess's feminist desire for autonomy. Jess's mother reduces her value to domestic competence and marital eligibility. From a feminist perspective, this represents what is described as the confinement of women to traditional roles. Meanwhile, Pinky, Jess's sister, is used as a narrative foil here. She embraces traditional femininity like being obsessed with fashion, beauty, and her upcoming marriage, which makes her the ideal daughter in her mother's eyes. However, Jess resists this role. She insists on pursuing her love for football and asserts her own agency against the cultural expectations of her family in terms of representation. This challenges Mulvey's notion of passive women in cinema, as Jess is framed not as an object but as an active subject with her own ambitions. As Abdil Shahid and Kalman Lam caution, the film's feminist veneer can conceal underlying patriarchal values. They write that underneath lurks a troubling reassertion of the value of chastity, masculinity, and patriarchy. So while Jess resists one set of patriarchal norms, the film overall still validates traditional family structures by making her success contingent on parental approval. A parallel example occurs with Jules, Jess's white teammate and close friend. Jules' mother criticizes her for wearing sports clothes and not being feminine enough, urging her to wear skirts and focus on boys rather than chasing footballs as a career. Here, feminism intersects with Western gender policing, where women are expected to prioritize appearance and heterosexual desirability over athleticism. By aligning and juxtaposing Jess's and Jules' struggles together, the film highlights how patriarchal gender norms transcend cultural boundaries. Both young women experience restrictions throughout their lives, with whether framed as traditional Indian values or Western femininity. So, what does the film tell us about feminism? First, Bend It Like Beckham succeeds in offering strong female protagonists who challenge patriarchal expectations. Jess and Jules are depicted as active, ambitious, and skilled, resisting the objectification that Sharman associates with classical cinema. Second, the film demonstrates how gender oppression operates in both diasporic and Western contexts, aligning with intersectional feminist insights. However, the film's feminism is limited. As Abdel Shahid and Kalman Lam argue, the narrative offers a female facade that conceals deeper systemic values. Female empowerment is portrayed as a matter of personal determination rather than structural change, and heteronormativity is still preserved in the film. Both Jess and Jules' narratives are tied to their relationship with the male coach, Joe, which reinforces the centrality of heterosexual romance. However, Bend It Like Beckham still provides an important feminist text in early 2000 cinema, as it challenges gender norms by representing young women pursuing football against societal expectations, offering images of female agency rarely seen in mainstream sports films. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.